Senators recognized for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I wanted the clerk to read the full motion to instruct conferees so that my colleagues could understand the simplicity and the directness of this. It's a very simple motion to instruct conferees to recede to the House position in regard to auto dealers in the Consumer Financial Products Bureau. And the House considered this in committee. And two-thirds of the committee members, half of the Democrats, all the Republicans, voted to exclude the retail auto dealers from the Consumer Financial Products Bureau. That's the way they voted. It came up on the House floor. It was defeated for as far as to put the auto dealers in the regulatory process, so it was excluded in the House. Full consideration at the committee, at the full House level, excluded. What we are asking here, now that this bill has passed, is in the motion to instruct our conferees, the Senate conferees, in going with the Financial Regulatory Reform Bill to recede to the House position regarding the auto dealers. I think this is a good amendment. I think it is a good motion to instruct conferees. I think it's something we ought to do. I think it's something that will be very helpful. And I would make this simple point to my colleagues. Under the Consumer Financial Products Bureau, 100% of all auto loans will still be covered. If you vote for the Brownback instruction, if we recede to the House position, 100% of auto loans will still be covered. Because we're saying in this, and the House position says, that if you actually loan the money, if you're GMAC, if you're some other financer up the stream, you're under the CFPB. If you're simply the retail storefront, which is what the auto dealers are, you're not covered under the Consumer Financial Products Bureau. You're not covered if you're just the storefront arm of this. But 100% of the loans are going to be covered. If you're an auto dealer and you make the actual loan yourself, and it's your money that you're loaning, you're covered under the Consumer Financial Products Bureau. If you're simply the storefront operation out here doing this, you're not covered. The auto dealers are asking for this. They don't want the additional cost and burden of this regulation on them. They are the quintessential Main Street business throughout the country. There's not a single auto dealer on Wall Street. None of them. Not a one. You can go up there today and try to buy a car and you can't get one. These are Main Street businesses, and they took it on the chin last year. We lost last year alone 1,700 dealerships across America, resulting in a loss of approximately 88,000 jobs. Why would we want to put a duplicative set of regulations on top of them that are already covered upstream, and they've already had these sort of losses and difficulties that they've had in a Main Street business? We need people to create 88,000 jobs, not to eliminate or lose 88,000 jobs. Franchise auto dealers are the retail outlets. They are the storefronts who process the paperwork for various well-known brands with large financial arms. Under the House provision that my motion instructs us to recede to, these financial arms would still be regulated, but the dealers who process the paperwork would not. Additionally, even if my motion is agreed to, auto dealers would still be regulated by the FTC and various state laws, so consumers would still have protections to ensure that the truth in lending still applies. In fact, I've got a couple pages here of of regulatory entities that auto dealers are still applied to, and I ask unanimous consent that this list be placed at the end of my comments.
Without objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to also point out here what typically happens. Now, this is a letter I'm going to read from Dale Wiley Auto Dealership in Kansas, Dale Wiley Auto Dealership in Kansas. He said this about the financing that happens. Each month we have, I'm reading from this, each month we have 3 to 5 buyers who tell our financial service managers, 3 to 5 people coming in, tell our financial service managers that if our dealership can match or beat their bank's or credit union's interest rate, they will then finance through our dealership. To match the buyer's offer of rate term simply provides a convenience to our buyers. To offer a better term and or at a lower rate even enhances the buyer's savings by doing business with my dealership. In other words, this is a competitive situation that typically people go into. We have buyers also, I'm reading again from the letters, letter, who are unable to secure a loan through their normal bank, credit union, or lender, and yet we are able to submit the buyer's application for credit to several of our lenders with which we have agreements discovering that one or more are willing to make such loans to this buyer. Not only does this provide a convenience to the buyer, but it truly allows the buyer to secure a better level and lower operating cost vehicle than provided by their older current vehicle. So this is a competitive situation. It also gets people at some time. I want to address as well another situation that's come up in this debate that people have raised, that this protection is needed for military personnel in particular. A couple weeks ago, the Senate adopted an amendment offered by Senator Reid of Rhode Island and Brown of Massachusetts that creates the Office of Service Member Affairs at the CFPB. My amendment, and by implication my motion that we're voting on today, instructs the current regulatory authorities to work with this office when they detect abuses by auto dealers. So we're saying if you detect an abuse by auto dealers, then this should be worked on, particularly by the CFPB and this Office of Service Member Affairs. I recently received a letter from the Undersecretary of the Army for Personnel and Readiness, Clifford Stanley. In it he writes this, and I quote, "DoD would welcome and encourage CFPA protection for service members and their families with regard to unscrupulous automobile sales and financing practices, provided such protections would not limit access to legitimate products." And that's exactly what my amendment and this motion does. Military personnel would have strong protections by the CFPB, but without the adverse effect of limiting their access to credit. If you want to protect the military and maintain all their options for buying a car, you should vote in favor of this motion. I point these matters out because there's been a lot of discussion and debate going on about the auto dealers amendment throughout the proceedings of this entire bill, which has gone on for some period of time. This makes sense to do this the way the House did it. It makes sense for us to move forward with this motion to recede to the House position. The House has established this position. They have thought it through. 100% of auto loans will still be covered. It's just the auto dealership won't be the one that's covered. The upstream financer will, unless the auto dealership is loaning their own money, and then they will be covered. If you're concerned about military personnel, there's a particular direction in here regarding military personnel. And again, any loans are covered. It's the upstream position that's covered, and it's where it should be. That's the actual person or group that's making the loan, and that's the one that should be covered. And instead of putting an additional burden on dealerships that have already lost lots of jobs, we're saying, no, let's recede to the House position on this. Mr. President, with that, I would reserve the balance of my time, and I would urge my colleagues to vote yes on the Brownback motion to recede to the House position.